Hey, what's up everybody? Jack Many Trades back here again with another video, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about starting up a brand new YouTube channel in case you guys want to get started. If you guys have not seen my last video going over all of the brand new changes to YouTube's monetization policy, linked right up here. Let's get straight into it. So first of all, of course, you are going to need a camera. So you can use, of course, the smartphone right in your pocket. Generally speaking, these days, smartphone cameras are pretty fantastic. They work really well and have pretty good image quality. And of course, they are already something that you own, so they wouldn't be an extra expense for you. What I used when I started my channel was, of course, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I have been using this for quite a while. If you guys want to see a video going over my updated review of that, again, I will leave a link right here for you guys to click on and check that video out. It goes over in great detail all of the content creator specific aspects of the iPhone 14 Pro Max as somebody who has been using it consistently as their primary camera for almost the past 9 months. I did switch to the Sony FX3 since then, and I will be making some videos going over the FX3 in the near future, so definitely stay tuned for that. But you obviously do not need to get a full cinema camera to do YouTube, and I definitely wouldn't recommend doing it if you are just starting out, as it is a pretty big monetary investment, and if you don't know yet if you're going to like YouTube, it's not worth it. But with that being said, of course, you do need a camera. So definitely my recommendation is, of course, to go ahead and use your smartphone. The next thing, and something that I think is extremely overlooked these days, is lighting. So as you can see here, we have quite a bit of lighting going on. This has been something that my YouTube channel started out pretty poor with, and I've been doing a lot to research how to light a scene properly, how to get the looks that I wanted, and I think that now I'm starting to get at least a little bit more adept at creating an environment that looks pleasing on camera and will be entertaining for you guys. So what I would recommend doing is going ahead and picking up a lighting kit like the Neewer 660 RGB kit. Now this is a pretty budget kit, however, it's not exactly free either, but it will definitely step up your game. It comes with a couple of soft boxes, a pair of RGB bicolor panels so that you can get your classic daylight balance or tungsten balance depending on what type of content you want to create. It also comes with 2 light stands and 2 power supplies so that we can power the devices. If you want as well, these do have 2 NPF slots on the back, so that way you can use some external batteries to get the job done if you're going to take this mobile. So this is definitely a light kit that can grow with you, and really you only need 2 lights to get started with YouTube. Now, I do in the background, as you can see here, have a couple of tube lights going on. This just provides a little bit of accent, a little bit of interest for my background. However, you don't really need to have something like that. And even if you can't afford something like the Neewer 660s, I think another product that could work out just fine for you and that I used for a little while is something like this. This is the Ulanzi VL49 RGB. This is a very small RGB panel, and it's also bicolor, so you can see that you can have this daylight balance at 5600 Kelvin. You can also increase this all the way up to around 9000 Kelvin right here, or you can go as warm as 2500 Kelvin. So if you want to get that nice warm look, that is something that this can do. And for being such a small light, this thing does get extremely bright. If we go up here to 100%, you can see this thing is very, very, very bright. So this will work perfectly. I think because it is such a small light source, definitely getting some diffusion. I'll throw a couple of links down below in the description if you guys want to check out some diffusion. You can pick them up for right around 14, 15 bucks for 24 inches. It's a 5-in-1 reflector set and diffusion. You can also get a small light stand and some clips, mount all of that stuff together, and then put this as your key light behind the diffusion layer, set up the diffusion layer, use some reflectors or other things like that around you, and basically turn this one really bright light into a more soft light. With reflectors, you can basically have about 2 lights. If you really think about it, you can have your key light diffused, have a reflector that'll bounce off some of the light onto your shadow side, provide a little bit of fill. There's definitely a lot to learn and a lot that you can do to up your video game, and I think that absolutely lighting is a huge part of it, and it's something that's overlooked by a lot of people, especially when they're just starting out. So the next thing that I would recommend you guys to get is something like this. You can get a very small little travel tripod. This can be useful if you are going out and about, filming things while you're on the go. You can just set this up really nicely on a coffee table. This is the Manfrotto Pixie, pretty popular small ball head tripod. Just set it down and you can just level it however you want with this ball head. Additionally, if you guys do go ahead and get some tube lights like I have back here, you can screw them onto this little 1/4-20 thread on the top and adjust your tube lighting however you want so that we can get different angles and other things like that. Definitely a pretty nice and handy little thing to have, and you can use this in a variety of ways, so that is something that I would recommend. Now, moving along to mounts. As I had mentioned before, the Manfrotto Pixie is a pretty nice tripod. It's very cheap and pretty easy to get a hold of on the secondhand market, eBay, etc.
He'll know and get angry, etc. See ya.
And so you may ask, well, how do I actually attach my iPhone to that? Well, you have a couple of options. You can go with something nice and cheap like this. This is a little clip from Ulanzi. It has a nice cold shoe mount here so that way you can put the VL49 or any other sort of accessory on here, have it shine right at you. So that is a pretty nice thing and something that I used for a little while with the DJI RS3 Pro when I was still using my iPhone with that. You also can get something perhaps a little bit more expensive like this. If you are an iPhone user, this is a MagSafe mount from Moment. This is the horizontal and vertical mount, so that way you can do your short form video like TikTok or whatever exactly it is that you do. Vertical, you can also configure it like this and have it horizontal. So definitely a nice and feature-rich accessory right here. You also, again, have a cold shoe mount so that way you can mount a light or whatever else you want to have. Now, while you guys are going to be recording, of course, the iPhone 14 Pro Max does have a built-in microphone, and although that microphone does do the job, it's still going to sound like a smartphone microphone at the end of the day, and it's not really going to give you that professional sound that you're looking for. So what I would highly recommend doing is going ahead and picking up something like the DJI mic. If you guys want to learn more about that, I have a video right here going over all of the DJI mic attributes and features. So that is what I would personally recommend. The great thing about the DJI mic 2 is that it comes with a charging case similar to the AirPods case that'll keep your devices charged whenever you're not using them. Comes with a pair of dead cats so that way you cut down on wind noise. They are standalone microphones, so you don't need to pick up an additional lavalier mic or anything else. You basically just use it straight out of the box. They also have a really long transmission range, several hundred feet, even when there's obstacles and other things like that on the way. And they have built-in recording up to 15.1 hours or thereabouts each, so that is really, really good. I think they're a great value, and the nice thing is that they will grow with you. So if you're right now using an iPhone, you can use the lightning adapter on the receiver, set your levels and all of that stuff, record audio directly into the iPhone, and then once you upgrade down the road to something a little bit more professional, it has a TRS cable that you can then plug into your professional mirrorless camera, and then you have audio for that as well. So I think if you guys are looking for a mic system, that is what I would recommend. Fantastic. can't recommend it enough. So on the topic of making professional looking videos and having that sort of cinematic quality to your videos, one of the things that really goes into that is making sure that you have full control over what your camera's doing at all times. So if you take your iPhone and you go into the camera, like we have right here, and then we go ahead into video, what you'll see is that we have a HDR video that is being recorded right now. So this has all of the color information, the grade, everything else built straight into your device, which may be what you want if you are a point and shoot shooter going to family events and other things like that, and all you care about is just recording the memory. But if you want to make your videos look really professional, I do not recommend using the built-in camera app, as you lose out on a lot of controls and features that you would get if you were to use a third-party app. Now, you may say, what third-party app do you recommend? Well, I recommend using the Moment Pro camera app. So that is going to be right here. You can download it directly from the App Store. And if we launch into it, you'll see here that you have the ability to go ahead and put on a log color profile. This will basically flatten out all of your image. It'll bring your highlights down. It'll bring your shadows up a little bit so that we can preserve detail across all of the different ranges of color values. This is going to be pretty essential if you guys want to get a more professional workflow going, and this really is a skill that will help to make you money. If you want to make money outside of YouTube while you're waiting for your channel to get monetized, you definitely need to know skills like this to make cinematic videos, so that way if you have clients or other people in your life that need video work done, you can be that guy. You can go ahead and say, hey, I'll take on your job, and you can produce content that is of high quality that people will actually want to pay for. Now, another thing that's really important to note about the Moment Pro camera app and why I really like it is that you have presets. So you can go here, create your own presets, tell it exactly the camera settings that you want so that we can access them very easily. So you can go here. Right now I have my standard YouTube settings, so it puts it into a log profile. Main camera has it at 24 FPS 4K. If you guys don't know, 24 FPS is really the industry standard when it comes to recording videos, as it gives the most natural and pleasing look to your eye. And if you guys don't know anything about cinematography, the most natural shutter speed to use for 24 FPS video is going to be 1/48. So this is what we call in cinematography the 180-degree shutter rule. So back in the old days, what would happen would be you'd have your camera and then you'd have a shutter that would rotate around on a disc, and basically every time that it would cover up, that would be your frame. So it sort of comes from that, and it gives you the most natural motion blur. Now, of course, these are solid state devices. They don't have actual shutters that rotate around. So in digital land, what you need to do is set your frame rate to, say, 24 FPS, then multiply 24 by 2. That's going to be 48, and then just divide by that. So 1/48, that is going to be the shutter speed that you want to use. Now, if you are going to be filming at 60 FPS for slow motion, then you would want to set your shutter speed to 1/120. That will give the most natural motion blur in your slow-mo. Now, something to note is that if you want to film your videos at 60 FPS and leave it real time, I would still recommend using a 1/48 shutter speed, as you are going to basically be getting more natural motion blur with that frame rate if you're not going into slow motion and putting it to a 24 FPS timeline. If you guys also notice, inside of the Moment Pro camera app, you have access to white balance. So you can manually set your white balance, and this is going to be an extremely crucial step. If you guys notice in this video, this is of course studio lighting, so it's pretty well controlled. But if by chance I was outside filming in the environment where light is constantly changing, the sun's going behind clouds, it's going behind trees, other things like that, you're going to get a lot of shift in your white balance, and it's going to make your video look very unnatural and it's going to look pretty jarring. Now, even if you are in a nice controlled environment like this with studio lighting, and say you're showcasing a product like a MacBook or something like that, and you have all of the focus on that product, anytime that you put your hand into the frame, it's going to white balance to your hand, which is going to make your hand look uh, sort of orange, and it's just going to look very off to your viewer, and it's going to be a bit of a shock. So I would highly recommend learning how to set your white balance properly, as it will help you out quite a bit. So now moving into the other things that you're going to need as far as software is concerned and being able to actually make the videos that you film, I would recommend using either Final Cut Pro 10, as it is probably the easiest software to get started with. It's a little bit expensive at right around $300. If you are a student, though, you can get a pretty nice discount on that, and you can actually get all of Apple's Pro apps for a combined price that is right around, I think, $400 or so. So I would recommend doing that if you're ever interested in creating music and other things like that. But if you guys are not interested in doing that, or you don't have a MacBook and you want to edit on a PC, I would recommend buying DaVinci Resolve, or just downloading the free version of Resolve and waiting until you actually need some of the pro features. So those are my recommendations for your video editing workflow. Another thing that I would recommend investing in is a color accurate monitor. Now, if you have a MacBook Pro, you're in luck because they are pretty color accurate straight out of the box. They have really great colors, a very wide gamut at P3. And if you have a new MacBook Pro, they are, of course, HDR as well. So definitely a lot of really nice stuff going on with their monitors. A lot of PCs like say the Dell XPS line, Razer Blade, other things like that may also have pretty good colors for you. If you want to get an external monitor, I would definitely recommend getting a calibrated monitor, or at least something that covers 100% of the sRGB color space, as that will do you pretty well for many years to come. And on the topic of things that you may want to pick up that are sort of optional but will up your video game in the long run, I think right at the top of that list is going to be a color checker. So this right here is the Calibrate color checker passport. This has everything that you need right in a nice pocket-sized form factor. Now, these are highly scientifically tuned colors, and so that is why the price reflects what it does, but it is something that is going to be useful, especially if you're going to be doing client work. It will help you to get perfect colors every time, regardless of how you set your white balance and other things like that in camera. Obviously, it is best to, of course, get your exposure, white balance, and everything else right in camera, but if you don't get everything perfect, this will help you to recover all of that with very little trouble. And what's great is that if you use DaVinci Resolve, there is a built-in feature that allows you to use this to automatically set your color and get to a neutral balance. So highly recommend this. It has the color chips down here, your exposure indicators up there, and on the other side, it has this very nice focus peaking chart and a white balance card so that we can get perfect white balance afterwards. And like I said, it fits nicely into your pocket or camera bag or anything like that. So moving right along, another thing that I would recommend you guys to get is some lenses from Moment. If you guys want to make your videos really stand out as an iPhone videographer, you're not going to have a full frame camera, so you're not going to have as much dynamic range or separation of subject and background, bokeh, other things like that, but you can actually modify the look of your phone so that way it looks like you were actually shooting on more of a professional camera than you were. And in my experience, the people that I've done video for with my iPhone have been pretty impressed and pretty surprised that such good quality was able to come out of the iPhone. And I think a lot of that was down to technique, of course, but also having different lenses, focal lengths, and sort of characters to play around with. So right here we have the iPhone 14 Pro Max moment case, and so this will allow you to mount any of the Moment M series lenses to your iPhone. This is going to be an essential if you want to go with this system. And you can pick up tons of different lenses. Right here I have the Moment 1.33x Blue Flare anamorphic lens. So if you guys know anything about anamorphics, this is what a lot of professional cinematographers use. If you like Batman the Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, anything like that, those were shot with full cinematic anamorphic lenses. That's why you get a lot of that nice blue flaring. If you look at Transformers, blue flaring is everywhere. That, of course, was also shot on anamorphic. John Wick was shot on anamorphic. So if you want to get a look similar to that, definitely go ahead and pick up the Moment anamorphics. Another thing that I would highly recommend you guys to do, especially if you are going to be going outside and filming in direct sunlight, is get some ND filters. So from Moment, you have a couple of options. You can get the bayonet mount 37mm ND filters like this. These basically just attach to the M mount on your Moment case, and you can just stack how many ever ND filters you need to properly expose for your scene. If you are going to be using something like the Moment anamorphic outside, I would definitely recommend getting the Moment lens filter system. So this will allow you to put the filter on top of your Moment lens. This is a 67mm thread, so you'll have to get 67mm filters. You can use the links down in the description below if you want to go ahead and find this, and you can pick up some 67mm filters like a variable ND. You can do a 2 to 5 stop, should be more than good for your iPhone 14 Pro Max filming out and about during the daytime. And so that will help you to get proper motion blur and proper exposure, as the iPhone is a fixed aperture, which means that you can't really reduce the amount of light hitting the sensor anyway, but by changing the shutter speed and ISO. And if you're outside, having 1/48 shutter speed and ISO 100 or ISO 55, you are not going to be able to get proper exposure. It's going to overexpose by quite a bit because the iPhone's f-stop is f1.8, and like I said, that is fixed. So unfortunately, you will need to invest into ND filters and a whole filter system if you are going to be using this outside. And the last optional accessory that I wanted to introduce to you guys will help to make your filmmaking a little bit more professional is something like this. You can get the DJI Osmo Mobile 6 for right around 150 bucks. And what this does is it has a little tripod stand. You can screw it in the bottom. You can put this on a desktop and get really perfect framing with this. You can use it as sort of a tripod if you want, although it is a bit overkill if you just want a tripod. But where this really shines is putting your iPhone on this and then moving around, getting really nice cinematic video, because this will stabilize your iPhone so that way it's not moving around so much while you're filming. It'll make it look much more smooth and much more professional. It'll be a lot easier to stabilize in post as well. So if this interests you, of course, links will be down below in the description, as with everything that I've discussed in this video. And if you guys got any value out of this, please consider subscribing, dropping a like down below, as it does mean quite a lot to me. And I would love it if you guys commented, and we can have a little bit of a dialogue down there in the comment section. If you guys feel like it, and you feel like I really provided a lot of value, you can also now give super thanks down below. It would be really greatly appreciated, and I will thank you guys down below in the comment section. So with that being said, I hope you guys got a lot out of this video. More videos like this will be coming very soon, and I am really excited to see if you guys do feel like starting up a YouTube channel. I would love to see the content that you create